In the last 3 years, in the wake of the Bush-Cheney administration and the McCain-Palin campaign, the Republican Party has lost control of the White House, lost control of the House of Representatives, and lost control of the Senate. Without any agreed-upon national leadership or any clear agreement among its own members about a policy agenda for moving forward, the GOP has tried to focus itself by focusing opposition on specific policies of the new Democratic president. The Obama administration continuing the Bush administration's bailout, that's been one. That's been awkward because Bush, after all, started it. The Obama administration stimulus package, that's been awkward because of basic macroeconomics. The Obama administration's first Supreme Court nominee. Good luck with the opposition on that one, you guys. And then there's the issue of closing the prison at Guantanamo, which was, quite recently, a bipartisan, almost consensus position. President Bush said he wanted Guantanamo closed. Senator McCain campaigned on the pledge to close it. President Obama did order that it be closed down. Belatedly, the Republican leadership in the United States Senate decided that despite its bipartisan origins, they would see if they could pick a fight, a political fight, on closing Guantanamo. And that may have been a shrewd political calculation when they were able to frame that fight as Republicans versus President Obama. What it's actually turning out to be is Republicans versus President Obama and Defense Secretary Bob Gates and General David Petraeus and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Admiral Mike Mullen, which makes the political calculation here maybe a little less shrewd. Secretary Gates made his position on the issue very clear on the Today Show this past Friday.
The truth is, it's probably one of the finest prisons in the world today, but it has a taint. It is the name itself is a condemnation. What the president was saying is, this will be an advertisement for al-Qaeda as long as it's open. There's a lot of fear-mongering about this. We've never had an escape from a supermax prison, and that's where these guys will go. And if not one of the existing ones, we'll create a new one.
That looked a lot like strike one for the political wisdom of Republicans picking a fight on Guantanamo. For strike two, we turn to General David Petraeus in his interview with Radio Free Europe on Sunday.
With respect to Guantanamo, I think that the closure in a responsible manner sends an important message to the world, as does the commitment of the United States to observe the Geneva Convention when it comes to the treatment of detainees.
If you're keeping track at home, don't forget that was the man whose name was fondly floated not long ago by Republicans as a 2012 dream candidate. That's him telling them they're wrong about Guantanamo. Bad strategy strike three comes courtesy of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
I've advocated for a long time now that it needs to be closed. The concern I've had about Guantanamo in these wars is it has been a symbol and one which has been a recruiting symbol for those extremists and jihadists who would fight us. And I think that centers, that's at the heart of the concern for Guantanamo's continued existence, in which I spoke to a few years ago on the need to close it.
But hey, who needs the support of your country's top military officers when debating stuff like military detention policy? In today's Washington Times, Republican Senator James Inhofe of Oklahoma continued the Republicans' fight against the military on this subject, arguing, quote, Americans don't want Gitmos terrorists in their neighborhoods. Who knows? Senator Inhofe may, in fact, be building up a very small constituency of support among Americans whose neighborhoods are inside solitary confinement cells in supermaximum federal prisons. On the other hand, he's 0 for 3 so far on support from major U.S. military officers. Joining us now is Jonathan Alter, MSNBC political analyst and senior editor at Newsweek. John, thanks very much for coming on the show.
Hi, Rachel.
Quantify the difference for me between Republicans versus Obama and Republicans versus Obama, Petraeus, Gates, and Mullen. What's the difference there, politically speaking?
Well, this is what they call in the military close air support or air cover. It really helps a lot if you've got some, fruit salad that they have on the uniforms on your side politically. Look, for more than 30 years, close to 40 years, the military has essentially been Republican. This is now in some transition, not just because people like Colin Powell came out for Obama last fall, but because enlisted men and women are moving toward the Democratic Party. The officer corps hasn't yet, but there are some signs that President Obama is making some headway with them. He was very well received at the Naval Academy last week. What we have here is Republicans in the Senate trying to make a last-ditch effort to continue to score points with fear by turning it into a NIMBY issue, not in my backyard, as they call it, to scare people into thinking that somehow terrorists are going to be loosed in their communities.
John, do you think that this sort of was chosen as a political fight on autopilot almost, that Republicans looked at this and thought, yeah, we know it came from a bipartisan consensus. We know Obama will get support on this. We know we might end up looking like we're attacking the military on this, but we're Republicans. We pick national security fights. That's what we do. Was this just poorly thought out? Is this the old politics infecting the new tactics?
No, I think they saw a potential wedge here, and they got it short term. Remember, they got a big victory in the Senate because the Obama administration didn't prepare the groundwork on moving, closing Gitmo and moving the prisoners to the United States. So they were able to get a vote on funding for that and senators were able to say, with at least a little bit of justification, hey, the administration hasn't planned this properly. We're not going to give them the money yet. So seeing that they could get a quick vote that would be a slap at Obama, the Republicans went for it. But I think what they didn't get is that when the debate plays itself out a little bit, that they would be exposed in this very small corner of the Republican base with Dick Cheney and not a lot of other people. And if you've got basically the greatest war hero since Eisenhower and General Petraeus and others saying that the Republicans are all wet on this, that presents a long-term political challenge for them.
It seems to me like the face-offs here are not in their favor, and it's not getting a lot of media attention yet. That may just be because there's a lot of political competition right now in the news cycle with the Supreme Court nominee. But, you know, John Kyle is saying anyone who says that Guantanamo is a recruiting tool for terrorists is just flat out wrong. That means he's saying that about Admiral Mullen and Secretary Bob Gates. We've got Dick Cheney attacking Colin Powell, four-star general, obviously the best-known Republican in the country, somebody who's got military credentials beyond reproach. They seem to be lining up with a lot of confidence, Republicans versus the military, but it's not become a sort of media meme yet, will it?
Well, you know, what's happened is that the Republicans are going to the well yet again on an issue that's worked so well for them in the past, but they may have gone to the well one time too many in the same way they did, you know, say in the Terry Schiavo case on some of those culture war questions. At a certain point, they can overreach. So if this does get more media attention, I agree with you, it's something that Democrats and progressives should really be pushing more. If it does get more attention, it can be a big win for the Democrats. But remember, there is still this kind of cultural gulf between many Democrats and the military culture. And I think if you talk to people in the military, they feel like a lot of liberals maybe don't quite get their way of life or their contributions to America. And so liberals have to do a little better job of working to close that gap, understanding where the military is a great asset to our country. And when they do that, I think they'll find that they can make real headway in that community.
Jonathan Alter, MSNBC political analyst and senior editor at Newsweek magazine, defining my life's purpose for the last 4 years. Thank you very much, John. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Rachel.